peaks in the pit.
Right. Well, yeah. And to know him. We're learning about him and what he's going to do. And we're not going to be surprised. When events occur, we're not going to be surprised. The only surprise we might have is if we're hoping for a pre-trib rapture and that doesn't happen, we've got to wait till mid-trib, something like that. There's some assumptions that we make about the things that we've read, because you know that as we read some of those end time things, they seem kind of wild and weird. And then all of a sudden things happen in science or history and you go, oh, by golly, that actually could happen. I just remember so distinctly thinking, how is it possible that everyone around the world would see the two witnesses? And what, 10 years ago, all of a sudden, I'm going, that is absolutely possible. That with cell phones and different things like that everyone could see. And I've even seen some like National Geographic type stories where they talk about these natives in the deep jungle. They're looking at their phones. I'm thinking, yeah, it's and that would have been something I thought, that's no way, that's impossible, right? So when we read the things that are happening with end times, there's so many of them that are now we can actually visualize or understand or believe. But there are also other things we can't imagine. But as we get closer, we'll imagine it more and more. We'll be able to understand it. So we're going to talk about that. I want to start today by looking at that. Remember that little minute and a half video we looked at? I want to review that minute and a half and go one more minute because it kind of overlaps with the chapter we're in now. And it kind of gets your head ready for some, there's a few little weird things that happen in this section. Just so you know. So I'd like to review this. It might take me a minute to get it started properly.
The book of the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel was a priest who had been living in Jerusalem during the first Babylonian attack on the city. And they spared the city, but they took a first wave of Israelite prisoners and hauled them off into exile, and Ezekiel was among them. So the book begins 5 years after all that, and Ezekiel is sitting on the bank of an irrigation canal near his Israelite refugee camp, and it's his 30th birthday, no less, the year that he would have been installed as a priest in Jerusalem. And then all of a sudden, Ezekiel has this vision. He sees a storm cloud approaching. And then inside the cloud are 4 strange creatures that have wings outstretched and touching each other. And these creatures each had 4 faces. And then he saw 4 wheels, one by each creature. And then he saw that the wings of the creatures were supporting this dazzling platform. And then on that platform is a throne. And then sitting on that throne is this human-like creature, glowing and shrouded in fire. And then all of a sudden, Ezekiel realizes what he's seeing. He calls it the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. It's God riding his royal throne chariot. Now, the word glory, in Hebrew, it's kavod. It means heavy or significant. The biblical authors use this word to describe the physical appearance and manifestation of God's significance when he shows up in person. These images in the vision, they're very similar to what happened when God appeared on Mount Sinai in the book of Exodus. And it's also very similar to the depictions of God's presence over the Ark of the Covenant. And that's actually the most shocking thing about Ezekiel's vision. What is God's glory doing in Babylon? It's supposed to be above the Ark of the Covenant, in the temple in Jerusalem. And so the first section of the book opens to explore that question as Ezekiel begins to accuse Israel of rebellion. So God first speaks to Ezekiel from the throne chariot, and he commissions him as a prophet. Ezekiel is to accuse Israel of breaking their covenant agreement with God in a couple ways. Israel has given their allegiance to other gods and has been worshiping idols, and this has all led to rampant social injustice and violence. And so as a result, God appoints Ezekiel to warn the people. The first Babylonian attack that took Ezekiel into exile is going to be matched by another, and Jerusalem, its temple, all face imminent destruction. So Ezekiel uses words and more to get his message across. He also performs sign acts. These were a form of street theater. Ezekiel would go out in public and start behaving in these really bizarre ways that were like parables of his prophetic message. So he was supposed to build a tiny model of Jerusalem and then stage an attack on it. Or he was to shave off all of his hair and then chop it up with a sword. Or the most extreme, he was to play the role of the scapegoat on the Day of Atonement. And he would lay on his side for over a year, eating food cooked over poop as a sign of the nasty food that people will have to eat during the siege of Jerusalem. And perhaps the most disheartening thing of all is the bad news God gave Ezekiel that no one was going to listen to him. Israel would reject him because of their rebellious and hard heart. And this recalls Moses' description of the people after the wilderness rebellions, when he predicted that exile would one day happen. And Ezekiel...
Okay, so that's where we're going to go today. We are going to see his little street theater episodes today. It'll be interesting. Let's see here if I can get this moved. Well, it looks like I got to restart. Let's see if I can see if I can get the right place. Oh, I gotta go up here, sorry. I guess I should move my files closer to the front, huh?
Only you know how to get there.
Right, yeah.
She went
Sorry.
through so many folders, I went to the other one, another one.
So if somebody steals my computer, they can never find Ezekiel. It's somewhere in there. Okay, so we'll get started. So we're doing chapters 4 through 7 today in Ezekiel. And we're doing this second out of the 9 sections. This one is signs and visions. And the signs and visions are these 4. There's going to be a play in the park. There's going to be a barber's chair. He's going to curse the mountains. And there's going to be a day of doom. And these are the scenes that we're going to see that he acts out. And so we start at Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 1. Now, son of man, take a block of clay, put it in front of you, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it. Okay, imagine, block of clay. You're going to draw a picture of Jerusalem on a block of clay. Get it in your mind? Then lay siege to it. It's a block of clay. Okay? You're going to erect siege works against it, build a ramp up to it, set up camps against it, and put battering rams around it. Does this remind you of your kids playing make-believe, right? They put their Legos together. That's what this is like.
Exactly.
This is what this is like. Then take an iron pan, place it as an iron wall between you and the city, and turn your face toward it. It will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. This will be a sign to the people of Israel. Then lie on your left side and put the sin of the people of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear the sin for the number of days you lie on your side. So Ezekiel's going to draw this picture, and he's going to encircle the picture with popsicle sticks, siege works, and battering rams, right? And then he's going to place an iron pan between him and this model, and he's going to lay on his left side wearing a sign. And all the while, he's going to keep flinging rocks at this little miniature, with this little miniature catapult that he creates. He's like having war against this city. So, think that's a little strange? Do you think it got the attention of the people? Probably got their attention, huh?
Not the good attention either, though, thinking he's crazy.
Yeah, I would think he was crazy. Verse 5. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. We're going to talk about this more. So for 390 days you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of your siege. So Ezekiel's going to lie on his side, hogtied, so he can't roll over. He's going to fling little rocks at his picture, and he's going to curse the city. What would you do if you walked by the park by your house and saw somebody doing this? Of call the police. You make a
Something
big,
or
you go
you're-
way around.
Exactly.
Ezekiel's going to lie on his left side tied up so he can't roll over for 390 days. How long is that? How many days in a year?
A year, right?
So more than a year, more than 1 year. He's going to wear his sign all the time, and then he's going to turn over and lie on his right side for 40 days. But what will he eat during that time? Don't answer. Here it is. Take wheat and barley, beans and lentils. Now, if I was going to be laying on my side out in the square, I would not be eating beans and lentils. I don't know about you all.
I mean, they have a lot of
That would be the problem for me.
rubbish.
The fiber. Millet and spelt. Put them in a storage jar and use them to make bread for yourself. You are to eat it during the 390 days you lie on your side. So someone said, well, sir, they lie on their side the whole, well, it sounds to me like he gets up and makes the bread and cooks it over the fire and then he lays back down. That's what it sounds like to me, but whatever.
Otherwise, how could he?
Yeah.
Restroom too. He had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he needs to go to the bathroom. He needs to go to the bathroom because look at verse 12. Eat the food as you would a loaf of barley bread, bake it in the sight of the people using.
Oh, my.
Oh my.
He didn't have to go farther.
No, animals, okay, you know, it's,
Cow,
okay.
but
Buffalo.
The Lord said, in this way the people of Israel will eat defiled food among the nations where I will drive them. So why is God telling them to do that? So that they get the example that this defiled food that they're going to have to eat. That's what they'll have to eat. There'll be no choice. They won't be able to eat the food that's appropriate for a Jewish person to eat. But there are some things that even Ezekiel won't do.
Yeah.
And he is not going to cook his food over his own poop. Verse 14, then I said, not so, sovereign Lord. I have never defiled myself. From my youth until now, I have never eaten anything found dead or torn by wild animals. No impure meat has ever entered my mouth. Very well, he said. I will let you bake your bread over cow dung instead of human excrement. Well,
I mean, it's not much better, but it's better than your own feces.
he then said to me, Son of man, I am about to cut off the food supply in Jerusalem. So understand this prophecy that he's doing is happening before Jerusalem has fallen and gone under siege. It's just before that, in that time just before. So he's warning them. Who is he warning? Is he warning the people of Jerusalem? Where is he at? He's in Babylon. So he's talking to the people who came out, right? And he's telling them this is what's about to happen in Jerusalem.
So like they would have to prepare and like harvest and keep it stored?
Well, do you remember what Jeremiah was telling the people in Jerusalem? Compared to what the other prophets were telling the people? What was Jeremiah saying?
He's gonna fall.
He says, go, go. He said, go with the Babylonians, cooperate with them, go when they come to get you. What were the other prophets saying? A couple years and things will work out fine. So if the people had done what God told them to do, they would have gone into captivity, right? But because they're not, they're now going to face these perils that are coming to fall. Chapter 4, verse 14. Let's see, we did that. Well, let's go ahead. Then I said, not so, sovereign Lord. I have never defiled myself from my youth until now. I have never eaten anything found dead or torn by wild animals. No impure meat has ever entered my mouth. Very well, he said, I will let you bake your bread over cow dung instead of human excrement. He then said to me, Son of man, I am about to cut off the food supply in Jerusalem. So again, this is just before the siege. The people will eat rationed food in anxiety and drink rationed water in despair, for food and water will be scarce. They will be appalled at the sight of each other and will waste away because of their sin. Now, is God going to relent? When did God say from here on there is no relent?
After Manassas.
After Manasseh's rule. That was when he said, you're going to be conquered. And that's when Jeremiah's prophecies began, and he began to say, God is telling you guys you need to go. When this time comes, you need to go. So God's now making clear what's going to happen to that remnant that stayed in Jerusalem, refused to go. So this is all looming in the future. Ezekiel stages his street performance at 593 BC. In 588 BC, 5 years later, Nebuchadnezzar's third and final siege of Jerusalem begins, which ends with the fall of the city, August 14th, 586 BC. Jeremiah was in the city during the entire 2-year siege, and that's when he writes Lamentations. We read Lamentations, the eyewitness account of starvation. Remember, we talked about cities that are under siege and the kinds of things that go on. And then Lamentations is the acrostic poem that describes those final days. Let's remember in Lamentations chapter 2, verse 11, my eyes fail from weeping, I am in torment within. My heart is poured out on the ground because my people are destroyed, because children and infants faint in the streets of the city. They say to their mothers, where is bread and wine? Are they faint like the wounded in the streets of the city, as their lives ebb away in their mother's arms? And then down in verse 19, arise, cry out in the night as the watches of the night begin. Pour out your heart like water in the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the lives of your children who faint from hunger at every street corner. Look, Lord, and consider, whom have you ever treated like this? Should women eat their offspring, the children they have cared for? Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? What would God say? No, you're right. None of this should ever have happened. What should have happened? Let's back up. You should have listened to Jeremiah, who I told to make sure they go with you. You could have listened at the time of Isaiah when Manasseh and them did his thing. You could have listened to, right? There's so many times they had opportunity to correct their behavior and they never did. Even after they couldn't change what had happened, the course was set. One of the authors used the idea that arrow's been shot. So if you shoot an arrow and you watch that arrow fly and then you say, I don't think I want to kill Eve. I think I'll quit. But you already shot the arrow.
It's already in motion, yeah.
Yeah, that's what God is saying. It's going to be in motion. And from here, yeah, the best thing you could do is do what Jeremiah's telling you. He's telling them how to survive or what to do. So anyway, back to Ezekiel 4, verse 5. I want to just remind you of what it said here. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So for 390 days you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you finish this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned 40 days, a day for each year. Do you remember when we studied the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom? And how we talked about, we think of Israel from our point of view, that's all of the Jews. But at that time, there was a time when they were split apart. And the two boys, Jeroboam and Jehoram, the two split apart. One took the northern kingdom and one took the southern kingdom. What's the first thing the one who took the northern kingdom, which they ended up calling Israel, what's the first thing he did?
Said idols. Bethel and Dan.
He set up the two golden calves.
Golden calves.
So that they would have a place to worship. So from the very beginning that the Israel came in, they were off task. And God has had to deal with these idols coming into the actual sanctuary, into the temple themselves. Remember we talked about the cookies that the ladies would bake from Astartes and bring it to the temple. We have all kinds of evidence of that when we read through Kings and Chronicles. So that's what God is pointing at here. He's saying 390 days, Ezekiel, is the number of days Israel, if you count by years, 390 years, that they were disobedient. And we're going to count 40 days of years, there are 40 years, that Judah was not following me. And that's the way God is doing the math. So, with the death of King Solomon in 930 BC, civil war breaks out. The northern tribes become the nation of Israel under the leadership of Jeroboam. That's 930 to 913 BC. To keep the people from going to Jerusalem for the pilgrimage festivals and their loyalty reverting back to the house of David, Jeroboam sets up golden calves at Dan and Bethel, where he commands the northern tribes to worship. That was in 1 Kings. Then throughout the story of the kings, the sin of Jeroboam is the touchstone of depravity. When Israel falls to the Assyrian Empire in 721 BC, God summarizes his feelings about the northern kingdom. So this is out of the book of 2 Kings, and this is what God feels about the northern kingdom. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 21. When he tore Israel away from the house of David, they made Jeroboam, son of Nebat, their king. Jeroboam enticed Israel away from following the Lord and caused them to commit a great sin. The Israelites persisted in all the sins of Jeroboam and did not turn away from them until the Lord removed them from his presence, as he had warned through all his servants, the prophets. So the people of Israel were taken from their homeland into exile in Assyria, and they are still there. So the Israelites remained dispersed throughout Assyria and later throughout Babylon until 539 BC, when who sends them back? Cyrus the Great sends them back, conquers the land, and sends the exiled Jews back to their home. So if Jeroboam builds the golden calves during the second year of his reign, then that's 929 BC through 539 BC, and that provides the 390 years of the sin of the house of Israel. That's where the 390 comes from. I know if you're like me, you can't remember that unless it's written down, but we're getting just the gist. Just get the gist of it.
So they like rebelled since the beginning, like they never had.
When Israel first broke away, when they first broke away from Judah, the first thing the king that Jeroboam did was establish the golden calves. And a place they could go to worship instead of having to go all the way down to the temple in Judah. Okay, so regarding the 40 days of the sin of the house of Judah, that's the southern kingdom, we need to review the kings of Judah themselves if we're to understand it. Of the 20 kings of Judah, only 7 were godly men. There's the list of them there. Josiah was the last of the good kings, and he initiated the last of the 5 great revivals. He was 8 years old when he became king in 640 BC, and in the 8th year of his reign, 632 BC, he began to seek God. That's in 2 Chronicles 34. In the 12th year of his reign, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of their high places, Asherah poles, carved idols, and cast images. And in 2 Chronicles 34, in the 18th year of his reign, he found, what'd they find?
The book of Bible.
Look at here! What's this? We haven't seen this in so long. They found the book of the law in the temple. Right, that's really amazing. With Josiah, the people of Judah had a godly leader. They had God's word, and they had the prophet Jeremiah. The word of the Lord came to Jeremiah in the 13th year of the reign of Josiah. So that's 627 BC. The people had everything they needed to live in accord with God's covenant. Yet they continued to turn their backs on him. From the time Jeremiah becomes a prophet in 627 BC until the destruction of Jerusalem on August 14th, 586 BC, 40 years pass. This period of obstinacy is the final sin of the house of Judah. That period of 40 years where they refused to do what God had told them to do. Imagine Ezekiel, he's lying tied up on the ground in a public park in Babylon, flinging rocks at his model, shaking his fist and railing against Jerusalem, all the while eating nasty bread cooked over poop, fortunately cow poop. That's bad when your blessing is it's cow poop, right? That's going to get people's attention, right? Yep. So what does God have him do next? Next, to get their attention, he uses a barber chair. Well, not actually a chair. Ezekiel 5. Now, son of man, take a sharp sword and use it as a barber's razor to shave your head and your beard. Now wait, he's been laying on the ground 390 plus 40 days, right? And now he's going to shave with a sword? I've seen my husband shave with a lot of things, but never with a sword. I mean, a knife would even be hard, right? But what would you do with a sword?
Use a lot of Band-Aid.
And you're going to shave your beard and your head with this sword.
No mirror.
No mirror. Well, I don't know if you got a mirror. It doesn't say. Then take a set of scales and divide up the hair. So you're going to measure out your hair that you cut off. When the days of your siege come to an end, burn a third of the hair inside the city. Take a third and strike it with the sword all around the city. And scatter a third to the wind, for I will pursue them with a drawn sword. In other words, this is what's going to be happening to the people of Jerusalem. Some are going to be stricken with the sword. Some will be just cast to the wind. It's saying this is what's going to happen to them. Verse 3, but take a few hairs and tuck them in the folds of your garment. What would that represent? A few hairs, tuck them in the folds of your garment. The remnant. There's a remnant of people that will be saved. For example, the people that are in Babylon, they're in captivity, but they're alive, right? Those people who fled to Egypt, were they supposed to flee to Egypt? God told them not to. He told them where to go and what to do, and they refused to do it. So he's making a way to spare that remnant. This is the remnant. Verse 4, again, take a few of these, a few of those you tucked away, and throw them into the fire and burn them. A fire will spread there to all Israel. What's that then? That remnant's going to be tucked away, and you're going to think, okay, good, we're safe. But even a portion of that remnant will be destroyed. So it's saying there's only going to be a very few people left.
Because the way is narrow.
The way is narrow. Fortunately, this is not the covenant. This is the old covenant they were in. So now this performance is like Act 2 of Ezekiel's greater stage play. Ezekiel's flinging rocks at the picture of Jerusalem, that speaks of Jerusalem being under siege. It was in 597, resulting in Ezekiel and those with him being exiled to Babylon, and it inevitably will be again in 588 to 586 BC. Being tied up and eating disgusting rations speaks of the Jews of Jerusalem, being trapped inside Jerusalem, starving on the siege as the siege grinds on. Now, by shaving his beard and hair, flinging the hairs thither and yon, slashing at them with the sword, it speaks of the survivors of Jerusalem being scattered into exile, while the small remnant that Ezekiel tucks into the fold of his garment speaks of the remnant who will remain behind in Jerusalem, many of whom will be slain after the murder of Gedaliah, whom Nebuchadnezzar will appoint governor of Judah and Jerusalem. And of those who remain in Jerusalem, most of them will perish when they flee to Egypt, accompanied by Jeremiah the prophet. Do you remember when we were reading that section, there was also other people? Do you remember the people that were allowed to go and farm the land? Just stay out in the land. They couldn't be in Jerusalem, but they could be in the region, and they were allowed, if they wanted to just farm and raise crops out in that land. They would have to pay tribute to Babylon if Babylon wanted anything, but there were a few that were allowed to stay. Why didn't those that went with Jeremiah to Egypt, why didn't they stay? Remember, they thought that the Babylonian king was going to be mad about Gedaliah, because he put Gedaliah in charge, and some hoods killed him. And so they were afraid that the king of Babylon was going to say, you didn't obey my leadership and going to get him. But what did God tell him? God told him, stay in the land. Go out and farm and cooperate with the Babylonians. You're going to die in Egypt. If you go to Egypt, you'll die. And that's the group that Jeremiah went with. Even after Jeremiah told them not to go, but they decided to go anyway. So do you remember any story like this that we're reading here about people shaving their head and being shamed because they shaved their head? How about David's mercenary buddy Nahash, the snake of Ammon? Hanun seized David's men, and in a show of contempt, he shaved off half their beards and cut away the lower halves of their garments at the buttocks and sent them away. Ezekiel was walking around bald, is like suggesting the humiliation of the Jewish people. So that's that humiliation part that they were doing. It doesn't say anything about cutting off half their garment. That would be humiliating too, right? Walk around with the garment up to your chest, you'd be going, everything's dangling down below. Not a good thing. I worked in the hospital too long. I saw enough of that. Gowns that don't cover. Ezekiel 5, verse 5. This is what the sovereign Lord says. This is Jerusalem, which I have set in the center of the nations with countries all around her. Yet in her wickedness she has rebelled against my laws and decrees more than the nations and countries around her. She has rejected my laws and has not followed my decrees. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You have been more unruly than the nations around you, and have not followed my decrees or kept my laws. You have not even conformed to the standards of the nations around you. You're not even as good as the people who don't follow me. You're worse than they are. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself am against you, Jerusalem, and I will inflict punishment on you in the sight of the nations. Because of all your detestable idols, I will do to you what I have never done before and will never do again. Therefore, in your midst, parents will eat their children, and children will eat their parents. I will inflict punishment on you and will scatter all your survivors to the winds. Therefore, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because you have defiled my sanctuary with all your vile images and detestable practices, I myself will shave you. I will not look on you with pity or spare you. A third of your people will die of the plague or perish by famine inside you. A third will fall by the sword outside your walls, and a third I will scatter to the winds and pursue with drawn sword. So those are the three parts. That's what's going to happen to the people that are in Jerusalem, which is what we read about in Jeremiah and Lamentations. Verse 13. Then my anger will cease, and my wrath against them will subside, and I will be avenged. And when I have spent my wrath on them, they will know that I, the Lord, have spoken in my zeal. I will make you a ruin and a reproach among the nations around you, in the sight of all who pass by. You will be a reproach and a taunt, a warning, an object of horror to the nations around you, when I inflict punishment on you in anger and in wrath and with stinging rebuke. I, the Lord, have spoken. When I shoot at you with my deadly and destructive arrows of famine, I will shoot to destroy you. I will bring more and more famine upon you and cut off your supply of food. I will send famine and wild beasts against you, and they will leave you childless. Plague and bloodshed will sweep through you, and I will bring the sword against you. I, the Lord, have spoken. So notice that God's words are a declaration or an announcement of what he's going to do. There's no, if you repent, then I will save you. You see that anywhere? It is saying you might be a part of the remnant. You might be a part of one of these groups that is going to survive this. But everyone's going to suffer from this. No one's going to be excluded. Now, Jeremiah, if Jeremiah had to give this message, what do you think Jeremiah would do? You think he would have the same kind of character that Ezekiel had? Isaiah was the thundering prophet. Jeremiah was the weeping prophet. What is Ezekiel? Weird. He's the weird prophet.
Weird declaration prophet.
So as Isaiah pronounced that, he made real bold, big statements and stuff like that. But Jeremiah, if you would only, he was the weeping one, right? And now Ezekiel, he's just plain weird. I guess God needed a weird prophet. In chapter 6, we're going to see the cursing of the mountains. Yes.
That just shows he can use anybody to do his work.
He might say, I need someone with pink hair. I have a task for a pink-haired lady. Right? Yeah, God looks for the character that he needs to do the work that he needs to have done. Yeah. Ezekiel chapter 6. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, set your face against the mountains of Israel. Prophesy against them and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills, to the ravines and valleys. I'm about to bring a sword against you, and I will destroy your high places. Your altars will be demolished, and your incense altars will be smashed, and I will slay your people in front of your idols. I will lay the dead bodies of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around your altars. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste, and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated, your idols smashed and ruined. Your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. Your people will fall slain among you, and you will know that I am the Lord. So Jerusalem is really the epicenter of God's wrath, but the repercussions are thundering all around into where Judah and Israel are, all around the mountains and the high places, all this. Remember in Jeremiah 7, verse 17, do you not see what they are doing in the towns of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, the fathers light the fire, and the women knead the dough and make cakes to offer the Queen of Heaven. They pour out drink offerings to other gods to arouse my anger, but am I the one they are provoking, declares the Lord? Are they not rather harming themselves to their own shame? I mean, it's like, from God's perspective, they're doing it on purpose to be against him.
That's what I was gonna ask. I know that there's like a loving God, but then this doesn't show like a loving God, so kind of like contradicts itself.
Sort of, but the loving God gave them all that they could want or need, and then they went,
You still choose.
they rebelled against him. So it'd be like you with one of your children who gets rebellious, who you've made them dinner, you set up everything, blah, 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 and then they just say, no, I'm not gonna do it, they get stubborn. So there's a point at which you say,
Then don't eat, starve. or
yeah,
whatever.
enough is enough, right? Yeah.
I sometimes wonder, is there a time in America when he's going to say enough?
We actually know that.
Yes,
We actually know what that end looks like.
just don't know when.
We don't know when. So this is an interesting oracle that's given about the Queen of Heaven out of Jeremiah 44. In 44:17, this is what they said about the Queen of Heaven. We will go on doing what we propose. We will offer incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour out libations to her, just as we have done, along with our ancestors, our kings and princes, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem. Then we will have plenty to eat. We prospered and we suffered no misfortune. That's the kind of thing they're saying to God. So the the Queen of Heaven is Ishtar. It's also called Astarte, and that's the Assyrio-Babylonian goddess of fertility. And it's worshipped throughout Mesopotamia, Canaan, and Egypt. She was worshipped at the temple in Jerusalem too. During his reform, Josiah removed her image from the temple and burned it in the Kidron Valley. I don't know if you remember that. Nevertheless, Ishtar remained popular even into New Testament times, especially among Israelite women. These are the cookies they would bake. Remember we talked about these cookies they would make? Ishtar, this is a picture of Ishtar resting her foot on a lion. That's 2300 to 2100 BC. Very ancient goddess that they would worship. And it was mainly the women. Kind of like having a Girl Scout cookie, but worshiping another god. You know how they have those shortbread cookies that have the imprint on them?
Well, I think even like in the Catholic religion, they do the Virgin Mary where they're,
Do they have an imprint on it?
Well, everything, like
Oh.
there's blankets of her and like different things where like they pray to her. And then she
Which is a problem with God, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to be praying to, when we pray to or worship other things. They were adding Astarte to their Jewish practice. So like you said, if you add, we're gonna pray to Mother Mary, that's adding to, right? And that's not what we're permitted to do, so good point. Ezekiel 6 says, but I will spare some for some of you will escape the sword when you are scattered among the lands and nations. Then in the nations where they have been carried captive, those who escape will remember me, how I have been grieved by their adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me, and by their eyes, which have lusted after their idols. They will loathe themselves for the evil they have done, and for all their detestable practices, and they will know that I am the Lord. I did not threaten in vain to bring this calamity on them. In other words, God has a reason that he's bringing this calamity on them. It's not just punishment. What is he trying to do?
Teach them a lesson.
Do you swat your kids because you want to hurt them? It's discipline. It's about correcting behavior. What you want is for them to do it correctly. And you try to do it by reasoning with them, by giving guidance, by giving instruction. But if push comes to shove and you need to hear it the hard way, you can hear it through the back of your pants, right? It's like that idea that he's trying to do everything he can to get them to turn their hearts back to him and to get rid of these other idols. Many of them were being Jewish and worshiping Astarte. Like somehow they could add that to it. That's not pleasing to God. That's not what he wants.
It's a wonder there weren't any Jews left after all of
I
this.
know. Well, he keeps saying that he's going to tuck away a remnant. Tuck away a remnant. And we see the remnant when we read Daniel. We saw the remnant of the Jewish people. We saw more of that. Jeremiah, we didn't see as much of it. But he keeps talking about there's going to be a remnant. But in Jeremiah, it talked about the people who stayed in the land and farmed and tilled the land. So there's the remnant, the people that stayed. Those few poor farmers that just did the very best they could and complied with the Babylonians and what they required. Okay, chapter 6, verse 11. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Strike your hands together and stamp your feet and cry out, alas, because of all the wicked and detestable practices of the people of Israel, for they will fall by the sword, famine, and plague. One who is far away will die of the plague, and one who is near will fall by the sword. And anyone who survives and is spared will die of famine. So will I pour out my wrath on them, and they will know that I am the Lord, when their people lie slain among their idols, around their altars, on every high hill and all the mountaintops, under every spreading tree and every leafy oak, places where they offered fragrant incense to all their idols. And I will stretch out my hand against them and make the land a desolate waste, from the desert of Diblah where they live. Then they will know that I am the Lord. So what's God's goal?
To make
Help them
man
turn
realize
around.
that he is the real and only God that.
Then they will know that I am Lord. I'm your mother. And when I say do it, you're going to have to do it. If you don't establish that when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, what happens when they're 13, 14, 15 years old?
Very their ways.
We've all had that experience, right? So the last part in chapter 7 is the day of doom. So we move to the epicenter of God's judgment on Jerusalem and Judah. It's throughout the surrounding mountains and the disaster that encompasses the whole land. This vision divides neatly into 3 announcements. And so we're going to see the 3 announcements. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says to the land of Israel. The end has come upon the 4 corners of the land. The end is now upon you, and I will unleash my anger against you. And if you ever do this again, you're going to feel the seat of the belt on your seat of your pants. The end is now upon you. I will unleash my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity. I will not spare you. I will surely repay you for your conduct and for the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that I am Lord. Again, there's a reason he's allowing this and doing this. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Disaster, unheard of disaster. See, it comes. The end has come. The end has come. It has roused itself against you. See, it comes. Doom has come upon you who dwell in the land. The time has come. The day is near. There is panic, not joy, on the mountains. I'm about to pour out my wrath on you and spend my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity. I will not spare you. I will repay you for your conduct and for the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that it is I, the Lord, who strikes you. In case you think it's the Babylonians, in case you think it's the Assyrians, in case you think, he wants to make sure you know this is God that's doing this. Verse 10, see the day, see it comes. Doom has burst forth, the rod has budded, arrogance has blossomed. Violence has arisen, a rod to punish the wicked. None of the people will be left, none of that crowd, none of their wealth, none of value. The time has come, the day has arrived. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller grieve, for my wrath is on the whole crowd. The seller will not recover the property that was sold as long as both buyer and seller live. For the vision concerning the whole crowd will not be reversed. Because of their sin, not one of them will preserve their life. They have blown the trumpet, they have made all things ready, but no one will go into battle, for my wrath is on the whole crowd. Outside is the sword, inside are plague and famine. Those in the country will die by the sword, those in the city will be devoured by famine and plague. The fugitive who escape will flee to the mountains. Like doves of the valleys, they will all moan, each for their own sins. Every hand will go limp, every leg will be wet with urine. Why? You're going to be so scared you're going to wet your pants. They will put on sackcloth and be clothed with terror. Every face will be covered with shame and every head will be shaved. They will throw their silver into the streets and their gold will be treated as a thing unclean. Their silver and gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. It will not satisfy their hunger or fill their stomachs, for it has caused them to stumble into sin. They took pride in their beautiful jewelry and used it to make their detestable idols. They made it into vile images. Therefore, I will make it a thing unclean for them. I will give their wealth as plunder to foreigners and as loot to the wicked of the earth who will defile it. I will turn my face away from the people, and robbers will desecrate the place I treasure. They will enter it and will defile it. Prepare chains, for the land is full of bloodshed, and the city is full of violence. I will bring the most wicked of nations to take possession of their houses. I will put an end to the pride of the mighty, and their sanctuaries will be desecrated. When terror comes, they will seek peace in vain. Calamity upon calamity will come, and rumor upon rumor. They will go searching for a vision from the prophet. Priestly instruction in the law will cease. The counsel of the elders will come to an end. The king will mourn, the prince will be clothed with despair, and the hands of the people of the land will tremble. I will deal with them according to their conduct, and by their own standards I will judge them. Then they will know that I am the Lord. So Ezekiel's 4 performances were pretty bold, and they certainly drive home the point that Judah and Jerusalem have passed the point of no return. That means the arrow has already been released. So when God released that arrow, actually at the time of Manasseh, and it's just been building and getting worse over time, and he's released that. All through this, we see messages that he's tucked away a remnant, that there's going to be someone left. It talks about their complete destruction, but it also talks about there's going to be some that be stowed away or taken away, a remnant. And that remnant will survive, but just barely, right? They'll just barely, but there will be a remnant. So Ezekiel is saying all this while he's captive at the waters of Babylon. Jerusalem has not yet fallen, but it is about to. Okay? So to just summarize what this was today, immediately after God appoints Ezekiel as a prophet, Ezekiel springs into action, not with thundering words or copious tears, but with street theater. Ezekiel draws a sketch of Jerusalem on a clay tablet, builds siege works around it, and then lies tied with ropes on his left side for 390 days, 24/7, flinging stones at his model and denouncing it. Then he turns on his right side and does the same thing for another 40 days. Afterward, Ezekiel takes a sharp sword, shaves his head and face bald, and a third of the hair he burns, a third he hacks to pieces with the sword, and a third he flings to the wind, and also he tucks away that little remnant. And then he utters these denouncements against both Israel and Judah. Ezekiel is weird.
I have a question though, like, so why would he act it out if it's something that's already gonna happen? Like, there is no form or way for them to say, like, God forgive me. Well, I mean, I'm sure there is, right? But they're still gonna go through that suffering.
Yes. They can suffer and die. They can suffer and be the remnant. They're going to suffer because the cast has been,
Right.
the arrow's already been shot. That's going to cause it. But we saw several times that God is saying, I want you to turn to me, not to Astarte, not to your other gods. Don't be mixing other gods. Come to me, come back to me. But it's going to be bad.
So he's still kind of giving them a chance.
Yes.
In a way.
He's saying you need to come to me. Be that remnant. Be that piece that does what I say. Be those people around Jerusalem who actually listen to what Jeremiah said, and they just do what the Babylonians want. They pay the Babylonians the tribute that they were supposed to, and they live in poverty out in the farmland. But at least they got to live. The others were, went to Egypt, were destroyed by the Egyptians. They all had forms of destruction. But if they did if they followed God and didn't have all these, but they were so mixed up, they had all those gods were just entwined with what they were doing. It was really a mess. Okay, so now, take a deep breath. Relax your mind. I want to go back with you and consider the end times. We talked before about this very prophecy in Ezekiel links with Daniel and the specific prophecy of Israel becoming a nation. Remember when we studied time, we talked about how there's a problem with converting time from BC to AD. Mm-hmm. So when it says a certain number of years in AD time, BC time, there's the years, there were different numbers of years, days in a year in that time. When the Roman calendar came in place, then we have another set of number of days per year. And so to translate it, you have to do a little math. If you don't like math, that's okay, but I'll show you how it's done, and it makes this really interesting connection to our passage today. So I'm kind of excited for you to see it. Some things like this you have to see multiple times, so I figure, well, if we say it every once in a while, we'll get different ones. We're not going to go into all the prophecies we looked at before, but just this one, because this is the one that's in Ezekiel right now. Ezekiel 4:4-6, this will be a sign to the people of Israel. Lie on your left side and put the sin of the people of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So for 390 days you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Okay, so you understand that, right? So remember that Israel began breaking the covenant from the very first king, and it got worse over time. But God is only attributing 40 years to Judah's sin. So there were a mix of good and bad kings. There were mostly good ones in Judah, but there were some bad ones. So God's attributing 40 years of disobedience to the southern kingdom. So when Ezekiel lies 390 days, he's representing Israel's sin. When he lies 40 days on the right side, that's the sin of Judah. The total of that time is 430 years of sin. So the Babylonian captivity took 70 years. Remember that Daniel was, when we read in Daniel, they were actually 66 years when Cyrus the Great sent them back. But it took another 4 years to begin offering sacrifices in the temple at Jerusalem. It was in such bad shape that as the people came back, they just wept. It was just demolished. And it took them 4 years to get to the point where they could begin offering sacrifices again. So there's your 4 years. So 66 years plus 4 is the 70 years. From the time they quit being able to offer sacrifices to the time that they began again. So Leviticus clarifies the penalty for breaking the covenant. So we're going to look at Leviticus. Don't get lost. You're going to get it. Leviticus 26. But if you will not listen to me and carry out all of these commands. Now, when is Leviticus written? Back in the law, right? Back when they were in the wilderness, when Moses was getting the message from God and he was writing it out. So this is way back before Babylonian, or way before Jerusalem, right? They're wandering around in the wilderness. Way back in the day, Leviticus. If you will not listen to me and carry out all these commands, and if you reject my decrees and abhor my laws and fail to carry out all my commands and so violate my covenant, is that not what God has just accused? We kept reading several places where God's accusing them of that, right? Then I will do this to you. I will bring on you sudden terror, wasting diseases and fever that will destroy your sight and sap your strength. You will plant seed in vain because your enemies will eat it. I will set my face against you so that you will be defeated by your enemies. Those who hate you will rule over you, and you will flee even when no one is pursuing you. If after all this you will not listen to me, I will punish you for your sins 7 times over. So here God declares that if Israel does not repent after the Babylonian captivity, when Cyrus sends them back, then the remaining time is going to be multiplied by 7. So if you multiply 360 years by 7, you get 2,520 prophetical years. Did they repent after captivity? What we read is that they continued to be worshiping Astarte and other gods, right?
Yeah.
Apparently they were not fully repentant, because we read in several prophetic works that they were worshiping all kinds of gods they brought back with them from captivity. In fact, if you consider their rejection of the Messiah, as a people, the Jews were not fulfilling the covenant of God. The prophet Daniel predicted this same period of time in another way. So instead of, we read the Daniel part, I want to read to you from the book by Mr. Johnson. His name is called Ancient Book of Daniel by Ken Johnson. In Daniel 4, God punished King Nebuchadnezzar with insanity for 7 years in order to humble him. God had Nebuchadnezzar act out a prophecy, just as Ezekiel acted out his 430-day prophecy by lying on his side. In Nebuchadnezzar's case, the restoration of his kingdom after 7 years is also a symbolic prophecy that illustrates that the children of Israel would be restored a second time for their land after 7 years of days. Since the prophetic calendar uses 360-day year, if you multiply Nebuchadnezzar's 7 years by 360-day calendar, you get 2,520 years. just like Ezekiel's prophecy. From the two prophets, we are told the time of the second return of Israel. We will first convert the Jewish years to Roman years, the same way we did for the timeline prophecy of the Messiah's death. Cyrus issued his decree freeing the Jews and declaring the state of Israel to exist again on August 3rd, 537 BC. We have that historical evidence documented. If you multiply 2,520 Jewish years times 360 days per year, you get 907,200 days. The 907,200 days on the modern calendar is 2,483 years and 285 days. And I put the math here. 2,483 years times 365.25 equals 906,915. So 907,200 minus 906,915 is 285 days. August 3rd, 537 BC plus 2,483 years comes to August 3rd, AD 1946. Add 1 year because there's no year 0, and the date becomes August 3rd, AD 1947. When we add the extra 295 days, we arrive at May 14th, AD 1948. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
This is the very day that the UN declared Israel to be a sovereign state.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence, you know. You can make numbers say anything you want. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It gives me chills. I didn't really connect the 390 and that 40 and then the multiply by 7. I never really connected that to end times, but it all makes so much sense because God let them come out of captivity, but they never really established us as God. They didn't do what they were supposed to do even when they came back. So I can see where that would be multiplied by 7, and that's where you get. So we did like this whole like study on several things, not just this one. And the problem is that in some places, like instead of saying on my original slide, instead of saying 2,483, I slipped the 4 and the 8 in the wrong place, and it was wrong. So, but the idea that this is correct. But I'm just saying I have a printout of our study that we did that does the same thing with the math for a couple other prophecies that you're welcome to read if you would like. It's in that big clip right there. So it's like a little packet of what we did. But anyway, it does give you the gist. And this guy, Johnson, who's written this book, the name of the book is Ancient Book of Daniel by Ken Johnson. He's the one who really showed us how to do the time. It's an interesting calculation. I can't do it without it being there, but I understand it. Every time I go through it, okay, I get it. You got to turn to days and then turn the days back to years to go through time. So, okay, any questions or comments? So we see bad things on the horizon. Yes?
Yeah.
How does this instruct us? What is the experience of the Jewish people in this time? How does it instruct us?
Be obedient and faithful.
What did you say?
To obey.
Obedient and faithful?
It does happen, like, don't think it's not gonna happen, so like.
These are not
like,
stories.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow, it'll.
Yeah.
No.
Don't we sometimes think like the Old Testament's these stories stories that
This
occur.
was so many years ago, it's not gonna happen today or now, but
So what did God use the stories for?
teach us to tell us to like, walk in a straight line or.
To teach us about Him and what's pleasing to Him. Sometimes we have to make decisions that are difficult to make, right? And sometimes we wonder, well, would God be pleased with this or not? So the more we know about God, the more we understand Him, the better it will be. Now, the end times are going to come, and there's some bad things on the horizon. So what do I have to think in my heart, in my mind?
That God is
ready.
with us.
Be faithful.
Trust in Him.
Obey.
Pre-trib rapture.
Yay! We're all for it. We're all for it.
Yes.
But the truth is that there's a lot of things we don't understand about the prophecies that are coming. As we march closer and closer to that time, we understand more and more of it. That almost makes it scarier.
Yeah.
So we have to trust in God. We have to relax and do what He's told us to do. Stay where He's told us to stay. Not give up on our stand, on where we're standing in God, in Christ. And the scripture is not a fairy tale. None of these were fairy tales. These happened to real people in real time. That's why I keep saying these specific dates. I'm not really a date person, but I keep trying to say it again and again. These are specific people in specific places. The real things happen. We have the history of it in history books. Besides